We have a big silver warning for Elon Musk. But first, how do you feel about $48 per ounce silver? What about numbers higher than that will make your head spin? Let's dive into some interesting charts and some interesting information that'll give us reason why we can believe the silver price is absolutely headed much, much higher. The silver price has attempted multiple times to break through the $32 per ounce barrier. On this chart, you can see back in May, back in June, it bumped up against the red line. It tried again late September, October, finally broke through, came back down, but recently has broke through again. The important thing for us to remember here is that the more times that a price tries to break through a big barrier, when it finally does, and it finally does for good, the move will be big and the move will be powerful. This alone could catapult us to $48 per ounce silver. Is this the most underappreciated chart in the silver community? It comes to us from the Jerusalem Post, and what this shows is the big cup and handle pattern in silver that everybody knows about. But no one talks about this particular chart, which shows the yearly close in the price of silver. And the big difference here, guys, is the fact that if we look at the yearly close in the price of silver, if this year on the handle side, we get a silver price on December 31st, 2024, above $30.85, we will have broken out of the 44-year cup and handle formation when measured by the yearly close in the price of silver. Remember, the cup and handle formation is one of the most widely followed, one of the most reliable and predictable in the technical analysis arena. And on top of that, the longer the period of time that the cup and handle forms, the more powerful and predictable the move will be. We still have the big silver warning for Elon Musk, but let's look at some more charts which give us even more optimism about the silver price as we head into 2025. This chart from TradingView and Meta Shackle shows us the cup and handle, but shows us also that the breakout, when it gets above the all-time nominal high of $50 again, could go all the way to $300. Look at the middle yellow projection. Now, the high end of the projection actually shows a price of $373 per ounce. This is not going to happen in a month. Likely won't happen in a year, but over a number of years, we cannot rule out this occurring. I want to remind you that between 2001 and 2011, just 12, 13 short years ago, the silver price went from under $5 per ounce to $50 per ounce. That was a 10x increase. And it gets even more optimistic when we look at what Grady, our friend over on X, has to show us on this chart using the Kondratieff wave analysis. When he looks at the cup and handle, he has projections as high as $370 per ounce, but adds it could also go much higher briefly at the end of the bull market. The fundamentals for silver have never been better. We have a decreasing supply coming to market from the mining companies. We have increasing demand from a multitude of sources. We have new, innovative ways to use silver being introduced to us on a weekly basis. And we know that the price of silver has been held down artificially for decades. 2025 presents a bright future for the silver price. In that light, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, VIZSLA Silver, stock symbol VZLA on the New York Stock Exchange. You know I love to invest in physical silver, but I also have a fondness for the silver mining stocks, in particular, the big ones that have a lot of ounces of silver in the ground. I'll be keeping a very close eye on VIZSLA as we head into 2025. A number of positive catalysts could be heading our way, and it's not just me. Look at this list of analysts who cover the stock, and interestingly, look at their price estimates for the company and compare that to the current stock price of about $2. Here's another reason to be optimistic about the silver price. A chart showing just how overvalued U.S. stocks are compared to the European markets. In each of the previous times that this chart was above the red line, let alone where it is today, silver absolutely soared. Look at 1971, 1975. 1986 and 2001, when we know that between 2001 and 2011, the silver price soared from under $5 to $50 per ounce. Today, we are 3.5 standard deviations above the normal, and the price of silver is indeed trading at multi-year highs, but nowhere near its all-time highs, both in nominal or inflation-adjusted figures. This chart shows us that gold and silver aren't very popular at all yet, after a generation of investors have concentrated on big tech. But with globalization taking steps back, and with countries scared about their commodity supply chains, VIZSLA Silver is advancing a project in Mexico that is projected to start production in the first half of 2027, 2 years' time. This potentially makes VIZSLA one of the nearest term silver mines in the world. And not only are the analysts bullish about VIZSLA Silver, stock symbol VZLA on the New York Stock Exchange, but the company's largest shareholders are Wall Street titan Franklin Templeton, with over $1 trillion under management, Eric Sprott himself, and Sprott Inc. Think about that. With 12% ownership, Franklin Templeton has 60 million in VIZSLA shares. One of the reasons VIZSLA Silver is such a high-quality company, in my view, is that while the average peer spends $17.56 to produce 1 ounce of silver, Panuco, the company's flagship asset, has all-in sustaining cost of only $9.40. That's significantly and noticeably cheaper than the average, and that is a clear and permanent competitive advantage. I want to share with you the next bit because when I read it, I started to really get a full grasp of how special VIZSLA Silver is. Mike Pettingill, Senior Vice President of Business Development and Strategy, emphasizes the project's robust economics. The net present value to CapEx ratio puts VIZSLA in a league of their own. But what might be the most important point to consider is what's demonstrated in this chart. It distinctly shows that Panuco, which is VIZSLA's silver project, can produce 15.2 million ounces of silver equivalent per year, making it the largest undeveloped mine in the world. Let that sink in as we're entering 2025 in a very favorable environment for silver prices. VIZSLA has established a clear and methodical path toward production at Panuco, backed by a strong financial position with over $90 million in cash and no debt. Global silver demand is forecasted to reach 1.2 billion ounces in 2024, which could mark the second highest level on record. Nikki Shields from MKS Pump says silver is in a shortage, and there's a notable drawdown in the available physical stocks held in New York and London's physical hubs, and even more so than what we're seeing in gold. Shields added that silver is expected to post deficits of more than 100 million ounces over the next 5 years, with industrial demand spurring the tight supply. And look at this. VIZSLA is currently valued at 0.49x price to net asset values, while the producers are valued at 1.28x. In other words, in the next 2 years, as the company advances toward production, on paper, the revaluation from 0.49x to 1.28x represents an upside potential of 191%. I want you to think about that because we're talking about a company with $90 million in cash, no debt, Sprott and Franklin Templeton as biggest shareholders, low cost, high yield project, which is going to likely be one of the top 10 largest silver mines in the world. I'd like to thank VIZSLA Silver for sponsoring this video. It's definitely a stock that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own due diligence, but I think the future looks very bright for VIZSLA Silver. This is a big warning for Elon Musk because when we look at what the charts are telling us about the future for the silver price, when we look at the fundamentals, and when we realize that Elon needs a lot of silver to satisfy the demand from his companies, electric cars, solar, space, I think Elon needs to secure himself a solid source of silver if he wants to survive in the future. Hey, thanks for joining me here in the basement. The future looks absolutely bright for silver. It's always a big honor when you join me. Thank you, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.